Alright, and here we have games 2 and 3 together. Not a great aggressive start. I don't have a turn 1 drop, which I really like in my Goblin Guide, but I kind of have to take what I can get sometimes. I'm going to go ahead and try this one out. Alright, so here I'm going to go ahead and drop my Plated Geopede, which is essentially my only real permanent threat in hand at this point. I hope it sticks and it gets through whatever counterspells he might have. Next turn I'm thinking of swinging for 5 with my, but instead I get an Arid Mesa. Now, I was thinking I should just start going, but I'm on the draw, which shouldn't really make a difference, but it seems to put me at like a turn behind, as you'd expect it to. So he has more mana up than he normally would, which means he can do what he just did here, which is remove and counter my would-be 5/5 and 6/1 attacker. So essentially, for his turn, he negated 11 damage. That's huge. So instead of, I should have just attacked for 3 and waited for a turn to cast the second ball lightning, make him kind of commit to doing one thing at a time. Instead, I get set back a turn and then duressed for a burst lightning, and now I'm way behind. This game would have been much different had I played out my Geopede as a 3/3 and just attacked, leaving the fetch land back, and the next turn being able to pump him up to a 5/5 again with the Teetering Peaks. That would have been, I think, a much different game, and probably would have gotten me the end here. I can still pull this out if I can top deck a little bit better than he can, but it's going to have to become a top deck war against a control deck, which is not usually something I like to do. Holding back the lightning bolt in case I need it for anything specific. Instead I seem to be top decking lands, and now I finally get a creature. I'm going to go ahead and just try to finish it here. However, he taps perhaps a bluff for a counterspell, lets it resolve, and in response to my land, he goes ahead and lightning bolts it, again putting me back to the same turn. He then just passes the turn, giving me another turn to draw a land. At this point, I probably should have sacked my Tarn just to reduce my land drops. I should have done that beforehand, but alas, I did not. So I still top decked the land that turn. So now I have to hope for another creature, and I get it, but it eats a counterspell. Again, leaving me at slightly out of his life total. He hits his 7 mana and taps them all for a Cruel Ultimatum, and at this point the game is pretty much over. I could possibly hit my Elemental Appeal, swinging for 14. That's about my only option here. Other than that, I'm pretty much out. And a Hellspark gets in for 3, but is just not going to get there. Okay. Now, as mentioned, had I played it a little less greedy on turn 3, I most likely would not have lost this game and match. This would have been the end of the match. However, being as I got greedy and went for an 11-point turn instead of a 3-point turn with a backup for the next turn, I wound up getting blown out in one turn and walked into eventually being crueled out of the game. So this is game 3, and I cannot keep that hand with multiple 4 drops and 1 mana. This one, on the other hand, I don't like going to 5. I don't see a 5-land hand being better than this on the play. So I'm just going to have to go ahead and kind of hope I get some aggression. Kind of luck out in the fact that I get to play a Geopede on turn 2 despite keeping a 1-land fetch land hand. That's about as good as I can hope at this point. He now has 2 mana, and I am trying to learn from... Now, I probably should have gone for it here. There's no way he can do both killing. I could have gotten in for 5 here. or 6 with if he does have the burn with a counterspell, but as it is, I wasn't quite thinking of that at the time and realized too late that being on the play with red means I get to be a bit more aggressive regardless of what he might have on turns 2 and 3. Whereas if I'm on the draw, I need to be a little bit more conservative with my guys, being as he's going to have a little bit more mana to work with to set my turns back. It's one of those live and learn things. He gets a tapped land, and I'm now going to go for pumping up my Geopede and swinging in with a Ball Lightning. Okay. And he has the Essence Scatter, which is what I expected he had last turn. But regardless of that, he still would have been able to swing in for 5 last turn, and then another 1 this turn. That ends up being the same amount of damage, but it would have given me better options for this turn if I had drawn a land, and that's something I have to be prepared for. Okay, Dragon's Claw, not good news for me. I've actually won through Dragon's Claws before, so I'm not too worried about that. In retrospect, this one should have been a Hell's Thunder. It turns out like it doesn't matter, as he has a second Essence Scatter for my creature. And again, I missed my land drop, which is not to be too surprising, being as I started with 6 lands. Now, second Dragon's Claw is really bad news. It pretty much blanks a lot of my spells, being as I can't really get ahead on the damage now. I swing in for 4, he gains 2. I swing in, pretty much whatever I do, he's gaining life. At this point, I probably should have started thinking about how to win this. Like, for example, unearthing my Hellspark would have got me in for 3 more. And that would put him down to 7. And then I could have Earthquaked for enough to probably have put him on a good clock, but again, definitely wasn't playing too well here. Kind of walked into a lot of problems. And at this point, there's pretty much nothing I can do. I foolishly played the Mana Barbs. I'm not sure why, being as every spell I play and every most spells he plays will gain him 2 life, so he's going to go ahead and win the damage race with very little effort at this point. And again, instead of swinging in for at least 2 damage, I let him. I go ahead and untap. He gains life. I lose life, and I swing in for a whopping 2 damage essentially. Oh wait, just kidding. No, I do 3 damage to myself, gain him 2 life, and he does 2 damage and counters my spell. He's tapping out a lot of land, which is not a good sign for me, because it usually means Cruel Ultimatum, and sure enough it does, which is the end of the game for me.